Absolutely.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and today I've got a special guest on the channel, Professor Bill from Comic Book University, and we're going to maybe talk about some of the things we disagree on, because we just had a conversation. It's live right now on his channel about all the stuff. It was a love fest. Basically, we talk about all the things we love in comics, and today, here on my channel, we're maybe going to duke it out a little bit and maybe disagree. Hopefully, friendly disagree, but the gloves may come off. How you doing, man?
What's going on, dude?
Just chilling, enjoying my quarantine and meeting new people. I believe, this is really the first time we've ever talked. And like I said, we just had a great conversation, but we don't agree on everything.
That's right.
Which I think is healthy.
Oh, absolutely. Jeez, we can't be inside each other's heads, damn it.
Absolutely. You don't want somebody that just agrees with everything. You want somebody to check you on all some of your opinions. And I know maybe we will agree. We won't agree. We haven't really discussed this beforehand, but we think we might disagree on the new Warriors from Kibble Smith, Snowflake and Safe Space. I believe it's a troll job on Marvel's part. What are your thoughts on that one?
Listen, if it's a troll job, it's like you don't answer your critics that way. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You just don't pay them any mind. So I don't think, in my opinion, look, it's not out yet. I have to read it. I will read it. All right. I'm one person who's going to buy it. I will, that's the thing. You and me, people who actually have channels where we talk about comic books, it's almost obligatory that we buy this so that we can read it and tell people, should you pay for it? Should you read it or not? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it is what it is. But I mean, if there's a troll job, whatever it is, the way that I see this is just some, like Kibble Smith writes for what's his name?
It's Colbert, right?
Yeah, Colbert. He writes for Colbert. I mean, he's a pretty rich guy. The guy makes like a couple million. He's worth a couple million,
Probably, yeah.
No, yeah, he is. He absolutely. I looked it up. I don't remember if it's like 2 million or 15 million, something like that. The guy's making some good bank. You know what I'm saying? And for him to, like, he's not gay. He's not trans. He's not non-binary. So why is he writing about this? Does he have, input? Am I going to see a special thanks, over certain things here? Because I'm really curious what the purpose is of writing these characters.
I think, it's certainly, I think they wanted publicity, and they've certainly gotten that. I talked to a retailer friend of mine, and he said he ordered 500 issues. I was like, 500? He goes, I think everyone's going to want the first issue just to say that they have it, or maybe so they can destroy it. Because it kind of got that kind of backlash. You're talking 200,000 downvotes. By all estimates, the comic book readership is like 350,000. That thing's probably gotten 1 million views just on the trailer alone. So they've transcended the comic book industry. So if that was the point, then it was a job well done. But if it was to be made fun of and mocked excessively in over the course of weeks, that's what they got.
Yeah, that video got ratioed big time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I haven't seen that many dislikes on a freaking political post. So, I mean, geez.
Yeah, it's like the Ghostbusters 2016 remake when the trailer came out. It's like this is just a hate fest.
All people were asking for is please call it something. Don't just call it Ghostbusters, because it's like, call it Ghostbusters 3. Call it Ghostbusters something. And they finally did with the DVD,
Well, overseas it was released as Ghostbusters Answer the Call, which I believe was the subtitle they ended up putting on it.
On the DVD, yeah. In the States and here, no, I didn't go to see it. I wasn't interested. If it's not going to have the people, they didn't tell us anything about it, and instead they started attacking fans instead. And I
actually watched it on a flight from the U.S. to the Philippines. I was coming to visit my wife before I lived here.
That's a good time to watch it.
And it's bad. It's like there's maybe like 1 or 2 jokes that are kind of funny. But of course, they were in the trailer, and most of it was just it didn't know what it wanted to be. And the special effects somehow were worse than the originals.
Yeah. When I say I didn't watch it in theaters, I did try to sit and watch it on Netflix with my wife, and I was just going to be cool and just whatever. And it was my wife who finally said, "Are you even watching this?" Nah, this sucks. Yeah, she's like, "Yeah, bad. I'm not even remotely interested in this." I don't know if we got a full halfway through, but it was approximately halfway through. It just it didn't last.
Congratulations, you did better than a lot of people.
Right? I'm a trooper, man. It's that military integrity.
Absolutely. Sometimes you just gotta grind through, persevere.
And even then, that was a failed mission.
Absolutely, yeah. So there are a few things I know that we do disagree on. One of them being like the current state of Valiant. We talked about it on your channel. I'm a huge fan of Valiant Comics from 2012 to 2017. It's my favorite shared comic universe. Like, because the line was so small, the continuity was like perfect. There was never any deviations from it, and they could really do a lot of things with it. Of course, there's new ownership. They basically got rid of the creative team, all the editors, and they brought in new people. I think Joseph Illidge was the first guy, and he's since moved on. But Heather Antos would be one of the main people that they brought over, and she brought kind of a lot of Marvel writers over. And I know you really enjoy the new Valiant universe. You hadn't really read it so much. I think maybe you had read some of the Shooter era stuff. Maybe
no.
So this was like your introduction.
Yeah, it really was, and maybe that's why it helps. Because
Absolutely.
I mean, if it was so, incredible back in the day, then yeah, forget about it. I mean, I remember I was going to the comic book stores. I remember it's gone now, but Comics Plus in New Jersey, they closed down. Breaks my freaking heart. But I remember I was like 14 years old, 15 years old. I walked to the comic book store and they had Robot Killer, whatever that was. One of the
No, that was Dinosaur Hunter.
Yeah, they had that, but they also had like Robot Killer Magnum or something like that.
Yes, Magnus.
Yeah, Magnus. Okay, yeah, it was one of those. I'm thinking of the condoms that I use. Anyway, like, forget about it. Saying I was like, okay, this stuff looks kind of interesting. Not really my style. I'm just a Marvel DC guy. But, I have always, kept the idea that it's on the radar. And I guess like a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I decided, you know what? Let me just start checking this stuff out. I started with Shadow Man, and I freaking loved it. I thought it was
okay. That's the Andy Diggle one, though, right?
Yes. I thought that was just one of the most amazing books I've read.
The last two Valiant series that I really liked were Christos Gage's Ninja K, and then Andy Diggle's Shadow Man was actually really good as well.
Was it called Ninja K before this current run, or was it just called Ninjak?
It was Ninjak during the Shooter era, but when they relaunched it, it was a reimagining of the character, and there's a ninja program, and each ninja gets a designator, A, B, C, D, and this was Ninja K.
I was reading that now in the current. Was it in the? I don't think I was reading Ninjak.
It was Killers.
It was Killers. Okay, yeah, it was in Killers. Yes, I was in Killers. I started realizing, like, oh wow, they've got a bunch of guys from like Ninja J and Ninja K, and wow, obviously, but yeah, I thought it was great. But they did that back before this current run.
Yeah, in 2012 when Ninja K was introduced, he was introduced in the Robert Medi's Exo Mano War. He was like one of the first people to challenge him, and that he doesn't destroy. And then it got a Matt Kent ongoing.
He was introduced in Bloodshot, wasn't he?
Nah, Bloodshot came out after.
Maybe you're talking about. I have the first appearance of Ninja K or Ninjak in costume, and I believe.
Oh, that might be in the original. I'm talking about.
Yeah, in the original. Okay, yeah, okay. You're talking about that.
When it was Ninja K. I'm not as familiar with the Shooter era stuff. I definitely need to go back and read all of that as well.
Yeah, but, I'm just getting into that. I got people sending me stuff. So I'm just okay, I'm going to read. Oh my God, stop.
Yeah, you can start learning about Solar. I believe he's at Dynamite right now. They kind of move those characters around. But so when I reviewed Fallen World, which is a Rai story, Rai, in 4001 AD from Valiant is my favorite story ever in comics. I think it's perfect. It's like 1984 meets The Matrix. It's one of the most neatest things. Then Clayton Crane is the artist on that. It has probably some of the slickest visuals I've ever seen in my life. So when Fallen World came out, and I believe Adam Polina is the art on that one, it doesn't quite look right. And then and the characterization's a little bit off from when I read Rai in 4001 AD. But I will admit, if I had never read Rai before, I would probably have liked it because Dan Abnett is a damn good writer. It just didn't quite fit in line with what I had read before.
Okay, I think that Valiant sent me Fallen World and something else, and they also sent me this. This is what the movie is supposed to be based off of. I bought the movie. I still haven't watched it yet. Eek. They sent me a whole bunch of these also. This is last year's.
Those are nice.
So yeah, I'm trying to catch up on a lot of these characters and whatnot, but it is really hard to to learn about these characters and try and follow them because there's so many of them right now. And I do wish that I would have gotten into them back in 90, whatever, the early 90s when they first started coming out. I just didn't. It's my bad.
It's terrible what happened to Shooter. The man's never, like, who's been screwed over more in comics? Like, he's basically got hosed out of his job at Marvel. Then he was going to buy Marvel. He got hosed out of that deal. He started up, Valiant Comics, got screwed out of that one by Acclaim. Then he started up, there's another comic, and that one got tanked because I think the title character, the flagship character, sounded too much like a Marvel character, and he ended up having to change the names and everything at the last minute.
Was that not Battlestar? It was one of those characters supposed to be like Captain America, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact name. That comic brand didn't last very long. The third one that he made.
Yeah, he's made a whole bunch of Broadway comics, a whole bunch of them. I have an interview that I did with Jim Shooter. I totally fanboyed out. I was giggling like a girl. I'm like, oh, I was laughing at like he wasn't even telling jokes and I'm laughing. I'm like, whatever. But like I said, I fanboyed out. He's freaking Jim Shooter, But yeah, as much respect as I have for him, I think that you and I, being former military, I don't think that anybody can graduate basic training in whatever division of the military you're in, whatever branch you're in. I don't think you could even graduate basic training without getting a much thicker skin to insults,
Yes.
So, so
I have no problems with it. I fear he was just a hard ass.
Yeah, exactly. Happens. That's the way.
As long as you treat everyone the same, I don't care how you treat me. As long as I know what you're going to do, and that the next guy is going to get the same treatment for the most part, that I don't really have any issues with. But I can see how it happened because, I did retire somewhat recently, and the culture, even in the military, has changed a lot with the way that you can treat people that are, the younger generations are a little bit different. The expectation of treatment is different. So that's why everyone's like, we need to bring Shooter back to Marvel, or maybe he should replace Dan Didio at DC. I was like, you are crazy. Everyone would leave.
Everyone probably would leave because it is a different culture, unfortunately. But yeah, Shooter definitely brought. I mean, maybe if he had a mouthpiece,
Mm-hmm.
Like I watched WWE. Brock Lesnar's awesome, but damn it, you got freaking Paul Heyman as the mouthpiece. You're just that much more entertained by it. Yeah, I think that Shooter is good for comics, but at the same time, Shooter's not good for comic writers. These are freelancers, after all. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of them are really hippy dippy. When you
think about Jim Shooter, he was writing for DC Comics when he was 14.
Yeah,
literally
younger.
A prodigy. He is a wonderkin. His thinking and his ability to write comics are on a level that most people will never attain. So if he's your boss and that's what he thinks the standard is, it might be hard to meet it.
It might also be hard to accept that you're not as good as you think you are.
Yes.
It's hard for people to admit that they're wrong. Sometimes, like the two hardest things to say in the English language or in just language period are, maybe I'm wrong and I'm sorry. Too many people just don't have the ability to do that. And I think that Shooter is definitely responsible for a lot of that also. But like, I'm looking at somebody like Jim Byrne. Okay. Amazing artist, really fantastic storyteller. He wasn't a huge fan of him writing Alpha Flight. Like that wasn't his dream job. And yet anybody who's read Alpha Flight for the most part is like, dude, this is a damn good comic book, So imagine if he really wanted to write it. But at the same time, you look at like Marvel graphic novel number 18, I think it is, the Sensational She-Hulk, where she's strip searched twice. You actually see her butt on a screen once. And it's like, dude, what kind of pervy crap is this? When he got chased, when he decided to quit Marvel because he didn't like Shooter, and he went over and started doing, you were talking about doing on my channel, you're talking about some of the comic books that you're going to be doing. And one of the ones you're going to be spotlighting is Man of Steel. Mind you, issue number 1 of Man of Steel, 2 covers, first time ever, there were 2 actual distinct variant covers. I got them both.
Perfect.
And they're not expensive, so it's easy to get them both. But I mean, he did some amazing work there. And that's still a work that is, to this day, for the most part, kept in continuity. It wasn't until Bendis came along and wrecked it that was in continuity until Bendis actually came into the universe. But that being said, Byrne still did some stupid stuff sometimes. He had it that Superman and Big Bertha Or Big Barda.
Mm-hmm.
Big Bertha, that's West Coast Avengers. Big Barda was like, oh, hey, let's get it on. And even if you could say they didn't, oh, she definitely did it with some strangers. And it's like, you're breaking up one of the best couples. Everybody always talks about Hawkman and Hawkwoman in the DC universe and Mira and Aquaman, but everybody's forgetting about Mr. Miracle and Big Barda. Like that's one of the solid seminal couples in the DC universe, and you had her mind controlled and cheating on somebody. Sounds like other comic books that I've read that are just off the wall. The Avengers number 200.
Stuff. If you, I went back and I read the Judas Contract, which is an amazing book, by the way. Marv Wolfman is an underappreciated genius in the comic book industry.
100%.
But there's some weird stuff in there when you're thinking about 15.
Yeah,
and it's obviously that Slade Wilson's in his 40s or 50s.
Did you recognize the jacket that I'm wearing?
Oh yeah,
I mean it's
there's like parts where the art is like zoomed in on her crotch a little bit. I'm like, maybe it was a different time, but
it was a different time, dude.
Your sound kind of went away.
Thank you. Yeah, because the mic was up. Thank you.
Hit up.
Yeah, sometimes some of that stuff comes off great. I loved the idea. Here's something we're probably going to agree with, sorry. But while I'm not a fan of reading rape in comic books and whatnot, it is still a realism that exists. And in the West Coast Avengers, when Mockingbird was raped while she was married to Clint, I thought that was a really amazing story. You know what I'm saying? Did you ever read that one? God, definitely go back and try and read those, because it was amazing the way that was written, and you're really feeling bad for her. And then Chelsea Kane, years later, I think it was issue number 8 of 8 of Mockingbird that she was doing.
The famous cover. You asked me about my feminist agenda.
That's the thing. So many people, and I think this is just weak sauce as much as weak sauce gets. I could give 2 squirts about that cover. I liked the cover. I thought it was cool. I've got no problem with feminism. You're okay with a little bit of, semi-cursing on the channel? No F-bombs?
Do what you got to do.
Dude, I have gotten laid so many times because feminists are just like, dude, we're just like men. I'm like, let's do it. You know what I'm saying? I love feminism. All right? I love feminism. So that being said, like freaking, who cares? She's got a stupid shirt. You know what happened in the comic book? Chelsea Kane erased what happened back then, not by saying, oh, she didn't actually get raped, but instead saying, oh, what actually happened was I wasn't mind controlled. I did that of my own free will.
So then
it literally just made you a murderer instead. You just turned Mockingbird, one of my favorite female characters in all of comic books. You just made her into a murderer instead. I get it, but I don't think that she actually read those comic books, in which case she shouldn't be talking about those comic books. Again, people focusing on the stupid cover, it's just pedantic to me. Focus on what happened inside of that issue.
That cover was created to evoke an emotional response, and certainly to piss some people off, and it was effective. I think
she said that?
She got some. Well, I imagine. Okay, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I've read some Man-Eater.
It's on your channel, and we're both critical thinkers. So
I have read Man-Eaters. I do know that she does like to push buttons and put iconography out there that she thinks will stimulate conversation or at least make some people upset. I imagine that was, maybe that was her first foray into it, where she got some more exposure. But speaking of not reading comics, we might disagree on this one. I think Tom King's Batman started out pretty okay, and then as we rolled. Yeah, there's some actually really good stories there. As we rolled into The Wedding, I think it kind of petered down because we started seeing Batman kind of become a buffoon. People are getting murdered in front of him. He's not doing anything about it. He's letting Joker shoot him in the face, kind of stuff like that. And then I think Tom
praying with him.
Yeah,
like he just became stupid. Like you're praying next to Joker, you didn't think he was going to shoot you.
And then I'm reading Tom King's. I don't think Batman ever really recovered from that. There was some like the 12 Angry Men story arc was pretty good, but other than that, like there were some real low points. You're talking about nightmares and stuff like that. But then at the end, when he finally kills off Alfred, and we get the explanation, because we all know Alfred wasn't supposed to die. That wasn't Tom King's idea. That was never part of his storyline. He was forced to do it by DC editorial.
No, he was forced to keep it. He was forced to keep it. He
Yes,
killed him, and then
but
he
it was
like,
supposed to be Psycho Pirate.
Yeah, it was supposed to be something fake instead. But they were just like, no, why isn't he dead? Keep him dead. I'm like, this is booty.
So it wasn't really part of his storyline, but then when he went and wrote that letter from Alfred to Bruce, where he basically is having his like heroic suicide moment, where he doesn't think Bruce can save him. You know, he's chosen to end it. You know, he doesn't want him to have to come and save him, but he says, you know, because Tom King introduced some things in that early part of that Batman run about suicide with regards to Bruce Wayne as a child. Like, I think he's like 7 maybe, or maybe 8 when he does it. And he slits his wrist, but then he makes his vow to his parents at the same moment, because he realizes he doesn't want to die. He's going to overcome his grief by becoming an agent of good and going cleaning up the streets. But then when we read that letter, we're supposed to believe that Alfred witnessed that moment, witnessed Bruce cut his wrist and make his vow, but never intervened. And it's like, Tom King, read your own story, man. You forgot that you put those 2 moments together, because of course he only mentions the vow in the letter from Alfred, but the vow happens in that other same moment. It's like you're messing your own continuity. You're messing up Alfred by doing that.
He's just messing up a lot. I didn't like it ever since the wedding issue, the so-called wedding issue. I think that was issue 50. Because I know my comic book store put on a big show. Like, they hired the Brampton Batman. You look him up. He's actually a pretty famous Batman. Hired a whole bunch of people to play. Hired that Joker guy to show up. He's a pretty famous guy. He's on YouTube also. Just hired a bunch of famous people to come by and do like a cosplay wedding and stuff like that. And then the day we got the comic book, the day that we were supposed to actually do the show, the day we were supposed to do all that stuff, read the comic book and it's like, oh, dude, they don't actually get married. We've got to change this somehow. Like, I don't get it. And it was a big dip. That's the thing that pissed everybody off. It's like, dude, you need a test audience. At the end of the day, that's what you need. And then later on, it just, for me, it only went straight downhill. Sure, a couple of cool moments, but I mean, for the love of God, you got freaking most of the book is just songs and poems and stuff like that. It's like, I don't want to read the damn lyrics. I can go to Genius Lyrics. You know, so when I'm sitting there listening to like, you know, a cool song, I'm like, what are the lyrics to this song? Oh, cool. That's what I do. I don't want to read it in a freaking comic book. You're like,
it definitely knows that. Like I said, that 12 Angry Men story arc was pretty okay, but it's one of the most gorgeously rendered bad stories I've ever seen in my life. It was like a train wreck. I couldn't look away, and you know, at the end, I was like, I got to review all of these because of what's going on.
I was like, I finally fell off of it. I fell off it. I hate reading. I don't like to hate read. I read with hope that it's going to get better if it's not going to be good. And I know there's a lot of people out there who read comic books and they hate read comic books. They read them, you know, there's the comic gate community that they read comic books just because they want to rip it at the end and do whatever. And it's like, personally, I think that's silly. You know, but to each their own, whatever. Somebody finds entertainment that's cool. I personally don't enjoy Howard Stern. I don't enjoy Leslie Nielsen movies. So I'm probably not going to like that either. I think it's ridiculous to me. But when I'm reading a comic book and I get to the point where I'm just like, you know what, Tom King, you're just not good for Batman. I'm out. Bendis, you know, you started off really strong in Man of Steel. I'm just not digging it right now. You made me actually stop reading Superman. There has never been a time in my life where I voluntarily said, I'm going to stop reading a Batman or Superman comic book because I just can't stand the stories anymore. Shocking beyond all belief to me. So, yeah.
So my friend Pele, he's on the channel. He does the live streams. He's a retailer. He's kind of a crustier old man, but his father introduced him to comic books, you know, as a child. His dad had been buying Superman continuously since like 1965. And he gave it up last year.
You see, what are we finding that we disagree on? That's the thing.
Well, this is fine. We're talking about more. You know, we
listen,
we
man.
don't disagree on a lot. Okay.
You know what's funny is that what made me decide to reach out to you to do this was the snowflake and safe space thing, and then the idea of the you know, some people on my channel like, you know, you should check out Thinking Critical. I think that you two actually, you know, think very similar to each other. I'm like, okay, let's check some things out. And you promised me that we're gonna have a lot of things we're gonna disagree on. I'm still looking for him, man.
We disagree on Modern Valiant. The last 2 years have been terrible.
That's it.
But I know you like them. I thought maybe you would like Tom King's Batman. I knew you didn't like Bendis' Superman just like I did.
Yeah. No,
But I am loving Dawn of X
yes,
for the most part.
Yeah.
I really like X-Men. I like X-Force. I think Wolverine's really good. But I wanted to like Marauders.
You don't like Marauders?
I don't like Marauders because the jokes are so bad. There's like Jerry Duggan is a good writer on like Savage Sword of Conan, Savage Avengers. I think they're great. But when he tries to do funny in the form of Deadpool and now Marauders, I can't take it. It's not. I just had.
You don't like Jerry Duggan's ridiculously long run on Deadpool? There are people critically acclaiming that as some of the best. Like, that's the seminal Deadpool right now. That's hysterical.
My favorite Deadpool is Rick Remender in Uncanny X-Force.
Wow, there are people who hate Remender because of his time in on Captain America. Like, no, I'll never look at freaking Remender again. But what do you call it? No, that's funny because I'm not a huge Deadpool fan. I like the original Liefeld Deadpool where he's mean and he'll tell some jokes once in a while, but whatever. But I'm usually not a fan of reading Deadpool because I just don't like that silly stuff. I don't like slapstick that much. I don't like certain incarnations of Fool Killer, but that version of Deadpool, which was funny by Jerry Duggan, I thought was just such a solid comic book, man. Great run, like introducing amazing character like Shikla. Dude, who doesn't want Deadpool to get with Shikla for crying out loud,
I don't, and I didn't like Marauders. I thought the weird take on Kate Pride, with her knuckle tattoos, and she's always got a broken nose, and she's an alcoholic now, and and the weird thing with Iceman, he would kind of, I guess it's changed now. Someone told me it did, but for the first like 4 or 5 issues that I read, he would show up in one panel to explain to everyone that he was gay, and then he would get beat up or leave. Do something with Iceman. Did he get beaten
up? I don't think they did. Well, here's the thing. I know that was a Bendis thing again. And like I said, Bendis is here. My opinion of Jerry Duggan is he's very hit or miss. Jerry Duggan. Mm-hmm. He's very hit or miss. Yeah. Bendis similarly. However, lately Bendis is a lot more miss than hit. It's like you got Naomi, while at the same time you've also got a co-writer for Naomi.
Yeah.
you got a co-writer for Naomi. But everything else, it's like I like the way that he writes kids most of the time. But I also don't like the idea that he purposely takes money out of people's mouths. He takes food out of people's mouths. Like not Adventures of Super Sons. That was okay by Tomasi. But Peter Tomasi's original Super Sons comic book was, in my opinion, the best thing that DC was putting out during its time. And Bendis came along, and I know this directly from the horse's mouths. Multiple, direct sources, talking about this without me trying to get anybody in trouble. Mm-hmm. Bendis came along, or Didio contacted Tomasi and said, "We're going to cancel your run." And he's like, "Why?" And he's like, "Well, Bendis has full rights to Superman. That's one of the things I promised him." And he said that in his exact words, "I don't have a use for a Super Sons comic book." Because he wants to do something with John. And of course, what he did was he aged him a couple of years to send him off into the future. And it's like, what in the name of God are you honestly doing right now?
He did a lot of the same things at Marvel. Because he was the head guy of the writer's room that was supposed to like be the conduit between the comics division and the MCU to help with stories. And he would get very jealous of a lot of the creators that were doing well, your Jonathan Hickmans, your Rick Remenders, your Ed Brubakers, and he would like do a lot of politicizing stuff around behind the scenes, and eventually drove them all away.
Are you a wrestling fan by chance?
I am. I love wrestling.
So he was basically the Triple H with the shovel.
Absolutely, yes.
I'm still looking for something we disagree on, dude. Like you promised. Anyway,
I hate Marauders. I told you that.
Yeah. Okay, that's true. That's true. I actually like Marauders. I think it's one of the funnest books out there. It's literally just Kitty Pryde has been so boring as of late. It's killing me. Ever since what's his name? Not Sin. I'm thinking Joe Sinat. That's not his name. That was an awesome anchor back in the day. Oh, for crying out loud. He wrote the Iceman books. He wrote volume 1 and volume Cena Grace. Thank you. He wrote Iceman. It got canceled. They were like, oh, hey, the trade paperbacks are actually doing really well. So they brought him back, fired him again. It's like, dude, you suck. And I'm not here to make a personal attack against him. I was joking about the you suck thing. I don't think he sucks. I just think that he's not good at writing Iceman. I don't care if Iceman's gay. Here's the thing. I genuinely don't care. You want to make Iceman gay? Fine. Iceman's gay. I honestly don't care. It doesn't affect me in one way or another. The trick is, I don't know how many comic book characters who are straight that I follow who I'm just like, who's this person dating now? Even Johnny Storm, who's probably the biggest playboy out there. If you're not going to include Matt Murdock as Daredevil. It's always like, who's this honey, 2-bit honey this week, But it's not something that I've ever really cared about. And when you make the driving focus about Iceman that he's gay, and I think the thing that finally killed it for me was the one issue where, what was it? Christian Frost, Emma Frost's younger brother, kills his father, murders his father. Sure, his father was a bad guy, but he went full Menendez brothers on him. He killed his freaking brother, or he killed his father, and then he got away with it. And Iceman was right there. Witness this whole thing. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to leave you to Emma, and I'm going to leave. And then he's doing his little ice sliding. He's like, ooh, I'm talking to this person on gay Tinder, and blah, 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 blah. I'm going to swipe right on this guy. And blah, blah. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Is that the only thing you could think of with this? This is one of the founding members of the X-Men. He's one of the 6 original mutants before they knew that they were going to make Namor a mutant. One of the 6 original mutants, for crying out loud. And this is the most that you could think of to do, is to make him, ooh, I'm gay. I don't give a rat's ass. What are you doing? And they were doing that a few times in the Marauders 2, which did frustrate me to no end. But then they finally had the one issue where in the beginning they did have the quick thing where he's walking off in the background with Christian. I guess they're going to go get laid. Cool, have fun. Literally, I didn't care. I just like, okay, whatever. I gloss over it. But then later on in the comic book, you see that he actually goes up and he starts almost killing people. And with the kill no human thing, I'm like, oh, as long as they do something with this is fantastic. It seems like they're not doing something with it. Instead, they're focusing on Havoc over in the Hellions. Did you read that issue?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're focusing on that, but you've already got something with Iceman doing something. You could do that also, but they're not. And I'm a little, man. I'm hoping they decide to do something with it. They need more than just Iceman's gay.
I'm not offended about Iceman being gay. I think, if you really want a gay mutant, there are plenty of them out there. But if you're going to turn a character with that much history, years of comic history and stories written about him, and you're going to make a big change like that, it should be well executed. And it just wasn't well executed because of what Stina Grace did to it. You can't make him a gay caricature. He still needs to be Iceman, but he's changed a little bit, so he should change as a character, but not completely. And that shouldn't be the only thing about him anymore. Like I said, they made him into a complete putz as a hero. He just.
Nah. Did you see the thing I was just doing? What was that from?
I didn't. I was in my head. What did I miss?
While you were talking, I was going.
Yeah.
That was the thing that Jean Grey did. Young Jean Grey did to young Bobby.
Yes.
He said, Bobby, you're gay. Okay, so what are you going to do with this now? I thought that was a fine way of doing it. Whatever. At least it wasn't Bendis speak. But they literally didn't do anything with it. It's just,
it also kind of makes Jean Grey pretty evil. Because you could interpret that he was always gay and she was just opening his mind, or you could interpret it that she was using her powers to make him gay. No,
I don't think she was doing that. I didn't.
Well, I don't think that was the intent, but you could certainly take it that way. Like she's using her telekinesis to influence his mind.
Her telepathy. I guess. Yeah, I didn't interpret that way at all. I think honestly, do more with North Star. You know what I'm saying? The first openly gay character. Yeah. What do you call it? Byrne wasn't allowed to make him gay under Shooter. It's like, but readers of Alpha Flight at the time were like, this guy's definitely gay. I mean, he's
like Midnighter and Apollo.
Yeah.
You didn't have to tell everybody that they were gay. Everyone knew they were gay. And then finally they were.
Exactly. And I don't have a problem with, pointing out they're gay. Like I said, I don't really have a problem with identity politics as long as it's not the only thing that you're going to focus on. Because I feel like it is a little bit too much. It's pandering. You know what I'm saying? It's too much. I'm okay with politics in my comic books. I don't care if they're right-wing or left-wing comic books. It's hard to, in my opinion, it's hard to do right-wing politics. in a positive way. But you could, if if you actually have someone who is right wing who wants to do it.
Hey, I would say Rorschach in The Watchmen is the most relatable character in the whole story, and he certainly is. I don't think Alan Moore was trying to make him a relatable like hero in that.
No,
You're supposed to disagree with him. But
yes,
I was like, I like him. He's the only one with the code.
that's too funny because there's actually Alan Moore's way of kind of insulting Steve Ditko because he is an Ayn Rand philosopher. He's an objectionist. And he really wanted to just show the absurdity of his Mr. A character and any other character that he's done in along that vein. And it turns out
the joke
that people
was on him because everyone likes Rorschach.
Yeah, people were really interested in that idea. And it's like, but here's a guy who can't change on his compromise, on his principles. But I guess that when you're that good of a writer, and I think that Alan Moore really is that good of a writer,
you made him sympathetic.
Yeah, you never know. So
because he wasn't trying to tell the reader what to think, he was presenting information and allowing them to think. That's where I have an issue. I don't mind politics. Actually, I like social commentary in comic books. I think it has a place. It should be in there. But it's when you start preaching, or if you start trying to tell me how to think, that's when I will immediately reject it and leave.
If somebody's telling you how to think, they're idiots. But at the same time, I don't know that too many of them are trying to tell you how to think. I think it's more like
they might just not be subtle enough.
I think, yeah, well, obviously, but I think that one of the reasons why is that they're in such a bubble that they think, well, obviously, this is what everybody thinks. So it's like, you're nudging, you're rubbing elbows with somebody, but we're still social distancing. Saying sometimes I could see some of the things falling flat. And as an independent, I hate, it's not that I don't care about, no, I hate Republicans. I hate Democrats. I wish that the parties would just completely fall apart as far as I'm concerned. Just go away. Let's just do regular independent voting, instead of for parties, for crying out loud. But that's just me. But I can see, I'm okay with you giving me the parts that are good from a thought collective. Again, as long as it's done by the people who actually represent them. That's one of the things that I have a problem, like, again, with Snowflake and Safe Space. Safe Space, I think, is to me, so far, I think that's an amazing power. Hey, he can make force fields for people, but not for himself. So he can literally protect other people, but not himself. You know what I'm saying? As, soldiers, we're thinking, okay, so that's the guy you shoot first. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's got to be completely selfless.
The guy with the radio, because you don't want him to call for backup.
100%. It's not the guy with the gun. No, it's not the guy with the 60 gunner. No. It's the guy with the radio. You get the prick 77, done. You're saying you guys are going to die in place. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think that's great. But then you got Snowflake. His name is Snowflake, and he throws icicle shuriken, and that's not a power, dude. That's not a power. You literally made this character for the sake of being able to call him Snowflake. And I need to see what this comic book is going to do because, dude, this just seems like the most insensitive thing imaginable. But this unfortunately is a lot of what the Democratic, party, if you don't mind me talking about this, this is what the Democrats right now are mostly doing. It's all about identity politics. It's like they don't actually care. They pretend they care. They feign caring. But they don't actually care. They have no interest.
It gains outrage, and when people are outraged, they're willing to take a more insane stance on things where it's completely absolute and maybe being less compromising in their beliefs or willing to talk about things.
Yeah. It crushes my heart to see them making a fight to keep Kavanaugh out of the Supreme Court, which I agree he should be because he's scum. But guess what? Whether you've raped one person as a conservative or you raped someone as a Democrat, as we're seeing that Joe Biden might be the case, I think that scum should be equal. And I'm frustrated that they don't want to talk about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, why is it okay when it's there but not over here? The hypocrisy.
Should be the same rules for everybody.
Absolutely. Exactly. And that's the way I see a lot of liberals writing their comic book characters. Oh, we're going to talk about this. We're going to do this. We're going to have these politics in our comic books. But, sometimes you can look at what's good on the other side too, because there are good things on the other side too. You might not agree with everything that somebody says, but I don't agree with everything that anybody says. You I'm having a problem with right now because we're not finding too much to, except for the
We
Marauder.
do disagree on what do we? I'll call it stunt casting writers. Like, I don't think in order to talk about a right wing or conservative views that you need to be liberal. I think you need to be Republican. You can be liberal and have an opposing viewpoint. Like I said, case in point being Alan Moore's portrayal of Rorschach. He's just a damn good writer.
Yeah.
And he can pull it off. So I don't think if you're going to write a lead gay character that the writer needs to be gay. They just need to be a good writer, do some research, maybe go and talk to people, and then you'll get the good story. Where you have Brian Hill writing American Carnage. He is a black man. Mm-hmm. The thing that he's talking about is racism in America, specifically like neo-Nazis and things like that. He went out there and interviewed people that were skinheads. He went out there and interviewed people in the KKK that would talk to him so we could get a better understanding of that culture, so we could present it in a correct light. He could have not talked to anybody and presented the most insanely thing, with all of his preconceived notions that he wanted to, but he went out there and gathered the information and he presented an interesting point of view for that, where he could back it up with actual facts and people he talked to. And he's, and I think it's a great job. So I think as long as the writer is good, they're competent, and they do the research, you can write whatever you want. Just, pay respect and do the best job you can.
So one more thing that we agree on. American Carnage, I think, was amazing. And I was shocked that so many people hated it.
Well, the first issue wasn't very well executed. I could see why they would be upset in that one. There's some stuff in that one. But as you move along, I think the story as a whole is excellent.
Yeah, I think that the whole thing was just fantastic. Loved it.
Well, we disagree on American Carnage number 1. We got to end it on a disagreement. We're about 42 minutes into the video.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, it's time flying.
Yeah, everybody got bonus content today. We were supposed to be 30 minutes on each channel. We got 37 on yours and 42 on mine.
Is what it is. Oh, well, I forgive you.
So definitely go over to Professor Bill's channel, Comic Book University. We talk about a lot of range of other topics. We didn't really cross over too much. There's a little bit of Valiant talk between them, but it's a completely different conversation, and we're just talking about our love for comics, our passion for it. The things that we really like is what we concentrate on that one. Definitely check his channel out after you watch this one. Obviously, you're at the end. And subscribe to both of our channels, and hopefully we'll do this again. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I do actually want to do something like this again. All right. I'll talk to you later, man.
Salamapo. I'm out.